Happy Wednesday in the Word. That's what this is. Wednesday in the Word. Because we're going to get some growth today in the Word. So here I have my sweet friend, Julie Pippin. And Julie is... right here. I'm going to advertise for y'all.
Thank you.
So it is called the Level 7 graphic.
Yes.
So anytime anybody's gotten a hat, a shirt, or anything,
it's from us.
It's
Thank
from
you very much.
Very love it. I love it. So here's what I wanted to do with Julie. Here's why I wanted you to come today. Through our conversations we've had, you told me about a book that's going to be coming out with a relative, and we're going to talk about that.
Good.
You have talked about your daughter in a near-death experience.
Yes,
and that's what we're going to talk about today.
Good.
Because probably a couple of weeks ago, Cole and I were watching this TV show, and he is an archaeologist, anthropologist, something, I don't know. But he comes on TV, and he was talking about life after death, and he was going through all different types of scenarios. Well, he had some people from, I believe, New York that they meet in a group, and they were talking about their near-death experiences. And with every one of them, it was a peacefulness that they had. Luckily, nobody went to hell and then came back. You know, that's... I guess when you go there,
you don't get to come back. That's it.
Give me the water. Nope, sorry, you're stuck
nothing.
there. So, but it was an experience, and I'm watching this, I'm like, oh, I know if I'm always captivated by that topic, there's probably plenty of people out there that they don't either want to talk about it, but I do want to talk about it.
It's the unknown.
It's the unknown.
And people want to know what.
Yes.
What
I mean, like John in Revelations, and he saw all of this, and God gave him all this.
Right.
But it happens because that same God is still here.
Yes. And it's not just for back then.
No.
It is for today.
It's for today.
It's for today.
So what I want you to do is I want you to take us to where it all began with your daughter and what happened. And I may interject sometimes.
That's fine. Go right ahead.
Or I may just sit back and say, here is Julie, let her talk.
Here we go. Yes.
So what happened when your daughter was 2 years old? It was in July, and she was going to be 3 in August.
Yeah.
So almost
she was
3 years old.
Literally probably 3 weeks, 4 weeks away from being 3.
And I want people to remember her age because the stories that follow, you're like, a 2-year-old, a 3-year-old is saying this?
Right.
Okay.
So we did not live here at the time. We lived in Georgia. We were youth pastors there.
I love Georgia. Where in Georgia?
Warner Robins, Georgia.
That's where my brother met. Oh my gosh, my brother!
Yay!
That's
so
where
it's wonderful. See, meant to be.
Yeah.
And we came down. Our family all lives here. My husband was born and raised in Flint City, and we came down for a visit. And it was July 5th, and so he grew up here. So he had friends come over, and we were grilling out, and we were swimming and having a good time. And my daughter was 2, and so there was 5. We were outside in the pool, and there was 5 adults in the pool, 5 kids in the pool, and my friend and I, Jess, were sitting on the outside of the pool watching everybody, watching what they were doing. And my mother-in-law was in. The kids were jumping in to meet me and going, and we were talking, and my friend said, "Where's Hailey?" I said, "Oh, she probably ran around, went to play, outside play." So we kept on. She said, "I'd feel better if we found her." And I said, "Okay." So I stood up, and I took 1 step, and she was at the bottom of the pool.
And there's 10 people in the pool.
Yeah.
2 people on the outside of the pool.
And
all eyes are all over the place.
And it wasn't that huge of a pool. The pool was unique because what happens is it's shallow on both ends, and it dips down and it goes deeper in the.
Okay.
So the kids were down here jumping in, and the adults were all standing on the side talking or inside. And so I just looked down, and there she was in the bottom of the pool, and I just screamed, "Jesus."
Yeah.
And everybody stopped because I screamed it quite loud, and I pointed, and they dove down, scooped her up, and she was purple. She was lifeless and purple. And my husband was there, so he came across. My friend immediately jumped up, and they proceeded to do CPR.
No idea how long she had been
I thought
there.
60, 90 seconds at the most. We just saw her run around.
Yeah.
She had her floaties on.
Yeah.
Because she didn't know how to swim.
She had her floaties on.
She had her floaties on, but when I found her in the bottom, she did not. She had taken them off, but I had not seen her take them off.
Wow.
So we think what she must have been doing was she was walking in the pool, and she got to a part where her feet, and she didn't splash. She didn't. I mean, when they say it's within seconds, it's within seconds.
Yeah.
You don't notice. There was nothing. So we screamed Jesus, pulled her out. My husband was like, I don't know how to do CPR. So Jess and him, she said, I'll help you. They proceeded to start doing that. I thought, no one's called 911. So I walked in to go to the house to get the phone. I got the home phone, and then I thought I needed my cell phone because I needed to call people to pray because I needed a miracle.
Yeah.
Because my daughter is purple, laying lifeless.
Yeah.
And so I had the phone, 911, and I called 911, and I was walking around the house. I can remember walking around the kitchen, walking to the living room, walking back outside to the pool, walking back
Just
in.
nervous energy.
Just nervous energy walking. And I was praying immediately. Went into spiritual prayer language, and I was praying and praying. Well, so the 911 lady answered, and I was telling her, in my mind, I was telling her, my daughter just drowned. We pulled her out of the pool. They're doing CPR. We need an ambulance. And I'm saying all this. But finally the lady, not yells, but loudly says, ma'am, if you do not talk to me in English, I cannot help you. And I thought, I'm talking to you. But what I didn't realize was my prayer language had taken over.
Wow.
And I was praying to my daddy.
Yeah.
Because I needed an instantaneously miracle.
Yeah.
So I had a friend later, I found out, was following me the whole entire time. And I didn't know he was behind me. And he was reaching for the phone when I finally spoke English. So the ambulance came. They revived her right before the ambulance got there, and she was crying. And apparently she had gum in her mouth. And that was important to her. She was like, I swallowed my gum. That was the least of our worries. I'll give you a pack of
You
gum.
were purple. And you were Barney.
And she was just like, oh. And we played a game that would say, what's your name? And her brother's Caden. And she would say, Cade, what's your name? You're my brother. And we'd say, what's your brother's name? And she said, I can't remember. So I said, yeah, we maybe need to take her on to the... So we took her on into the hospital, Lakeland Hospital. We took her in the ambulance. They took her. And the ambulance driver, I remember I kept waking her up because she would kind of doze off. And he would say, she's had a trauma. She needs to rest. And I'd say, but how do we know? He said, well, do you feel better if we put oxygen on her? And I said, sure.
Yeah.
I know nothing medical.
Yeah.
So I was like,
hey, but we have all kinds of medical shows on TV.
Exactly. And I watch them, and the first thing they do is they put
Oxygen.
So I was like, sure, she needs oxygen. That's medically what I watched and they need to do. That was my feel. But when he said, she's going to be okay, and I said, are you sure? I'll pray curses on you. And I said, not really. I can't pray curses on you. And he was like looking at me because he knew I was of faith, because the whole time I was calling my pastor, I was calling our best friends, I was calling our family. I was saying, pray, you've got to pray. Hailey's drowned. We got to pray.
So you're being a testimony to that guy in the ambulance.
Not even knowing.
Not even knowing it.
Because I'm doing what was in me. So we did all that, got to the hospital. They got us in a room, and the doctor came in and said, you need to prepare yourself that she's mentally probably not going to be right. And I said, no. Yeah. She will live and not die. And I remember when I was walking around and praying, I was like, God, she will live and not die. She will live and not die. You've done this miracle. You have saved Joseph. You have saved Moses when they were in the desert. You have brought Lazarus back to life. You had, God needed reminding.
Yeah, you're telling God what he did.
Yeah.
He's like, I know. I'm glad you remember that, honey.
You need to know you did this and this.
Yeah.
So if you've done this and this, you could do this.
Yeah.
But I remember thinking later, that's so dumb.
But no, it's not.
I was telling him what he had done, but I was like.
But it's assuring you.
Yes.
That he is a God of miracles.
His word.
Right.
I knew his word. And so, because earlier that week, there had been issues that I thought were something else. It was before cell phones had everything you wanted on there.
Yeah.
So I had my iPod. Yeah. All week, and so we were visiting. So it wasn't our home, but my kids had toys everywhere, and we were visiting people. I had my iPod in my ear, and it was either worship music, or it was the Word. Right. Now I didn't always do that. Right. Praise the Lord, we all need spiritual, but I was not Miss Spiritual.
But he's feeling that at that moment.
I had felt I just needed that, and sometimes you need that more weeks than others. And God does that because he knows what war is fixing to come
Absolutely.
and what you have to do. So earlier that week I had just constant, I couldn't tell you what chapter it was. I couldn't tell you what verse it was.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you what the word was, but I know the word was in me.
Absolutely.
And it was pouring into me
Yep.
because it was getting me ready to fight.
Absolutely.
So when I got to the hospital, I was like, she will live and not die.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and remember the nurse even going, it's okay, Mom. I was like, this is me and Jesus is
Yeah.
having a moment. So she began to throw up, and she threw up and threw up, and we thought, Lord, where is all this coming from? Apparently we found out she needed to eat hot dogs a little better because that came out not chewed. That was a side note. So she threw up. In fact, she threw up so much, the smell of the throw up. I worked in daycare
Right.
all the years, and I had a lot of throw up. I
Yeah.
had 2 kids at this point. That was a throw up and since have never smelt. The only thing I could think, it must have been death because the odor of it was horrible. And in fact, my husband and I both, we would hold her while we were in the hospital, and she would begin to throw up. It stained our clothes.
Wow.
We had to throw them away.
It's
I
almost
washed
like
and
this
washed.
movie. Okay, this is totally off the topic, but I love this movie, The Green Mile. Have you ever
Yes.
seen that?
I love that movie.
And oh my
Yes.
gosh, and he's throwing up
Yes.
all of that.
And that is,
And it
yes.
was death.
And it was death. That is exactly it. And I had seen that years before, and that is exactly what that
Wow.
was. It was like death coming out. Because I thought she'd been underwater 60 to 90 seconds at the most. But so our clothes were stained. I went home later because I loved the outfit I had on. It was white shorts and a cute little tank top.
Why is it always when you wear white?
Scrubbed and scrubbed and scrubbed, and we could not get the stain out.
Yeah.
We tried everything. So I said, just throw the clothes away. For a while, I kept it for a memory
Yeah.
of what God had done.
Mm-hmm.
But then I thought,
Just look at your child.
so we threw those away.
Yeah.
So my sister had called, and my sister, we'll talk about that later, but she
Yeah.
had an experience. So I called her and I said, Hailey's drowned. I need to go, but I want y'all to pray. And she said, she said, okay, wait. And she prayed specifically of no one that did not believe in a miracle could enter our room. And I said, okay, thanks. I hung up the phone. I didn't know what severity that was.
So at the hospital,
We're in the ER.
you're in the ER, and your sister is praying that no one that is not a believer
Right.
will enter
Not
the
just a
room.
believer, but doesn't have faith that they believe those things happen.
Oh,
They don't
okay.
believe that a miracle could ever happen.
Okay.
So I
Back
said,
off.
okay, thanks. Hung up the phone.
Okay.
2 nurses opened the door, walked in, turned around, walked out, never saw them again. Another nurse came in because they had to put IVs in her, and she was little, and so they couldn't get the IVs in, and they were taking her blood to see her vitals. And so the doctor that told me I needed to prepare myself, I was like, nope. I wasn't going to prepare myself because I knew this was going to be a full miracle.
Right.
We weren't going to have a half miracle. It was going to be a complete.
Yeah.
So he would he'd open the door and call us out. He would not even come
He
in the
wouldn't
room.
come in the room.
And so this went on. So then he finally, at the end, he said, I'm going to put somebody else on your case. And we said, I think that's best for you to do that. Thank you.
So we all want your sister on our prayer chain.
Yes. She is a woman of faith, let me tell you. I can call her anytime. So we went, the vitals, I asked for them, and they were like, well, we can't get it. I said, I have a friend in Georgia, Sarah, that was a nurse. And I said, I'd called her and said, you got to pray.
Yeah.
She said, what are vitals? I said, I don't know. I didn't know what it was. She said, if you can, get them. So a nurse gave them to me. And I called her and said, all right, this is what this and this. I didn't know what nothing was. And she
Because
said,
all you knew was you need oxygen.
I need oxygen. I don't know anything else. So I asked her, I said, how do I pray specifically?
Right.
Because you can pray, and that's great, you pray. But we need to pray specifically
Amen.
of what we need.
Yep.
Because he says, I'll give you everything you've ever asked, everything
Yeah.
you ever want. Just ask of me.
Yep.
But if we don't pray specifically,
Yep.
how does he know
Yep.
what we need?
I text those exact words to my daughter yesterday
Pray.
about a situation.
Yes.
Pray specific with God.
Yep, tell him exactly what you want.
Yeah.
So I said, how do I pray? And she said, well, you need to pray for her mind and everything's okay. And I said, okay. I didn't think anything of it, didn't think more. I thought, okay, that's how we'll pray. What I didn't know until 2 years later, we had lunch together, that friend of mine, And she said, I never told you, but that day when you called me and I told you to pray for her mind, she said, I hung up the phone and I dropped to my knees.
Aww.
And I said, oh God, Hailey won't be right.
Because she
won't
knew the
be right,
vitals.
because she knew the vital medically.
Right.
And she said, medically, your daughter was underwater 5 to 7 minutes. And 5 to 7 minutes without oxygen,
Yeah. Yeah.
without anything, your brain can't function.
Yeah.
You cannot be. So she was out, which I didn't know. And I was like, what? And she dropped and she began to pray and said, God, if we don't have a miracle, she won't be right. She won't make it. She either won't make it or she won't be correct. And I didn't know this, but she just said, you need to pray with this.
Yeah.
Well, she had a little girl that was 3 at the time.
So it hit
And
home
she
too.
went, and that little 3-year-old heard her mom, and she went in the closet. Her mom couldn't, she was starting to look for her after she prayed, and she was like, calling her name, Sarah, and she went in, Sarah Grace, and she went in there. Sarah Grace was in the closet bawling and saying, Jesus, you have to touch my friend.
Aww.
Jesus, please heal my friend.
This is the 3-year-old.
3-year-old praying for her friend and crying out to God.
I love Sarah Grace.
So we had, I know, she's awesome. So we had people praying for Hailey everywhere. So we go, they hook her up to monitors, and they said, we're going to put you in the pediatric ICU.
Yeah.
So we go
Good
in
people
Lakeland,
up
great people up there. So we go, they put us in the elevator. I hug her in the wheelchair. My parents had come at this point, and my husband was with us. And so we get up there, and the elevator doors open. And the only way I can explain what that is it must be what heaven must be going to be. When we get, like we're going to ride an elevator and the doors open. But when we get in
Not a stairway.
not a stair, it's going to be an elevator. I ain't going to walk. So the elevator doors open, and I remember this, it literally felt like a wind come in, and it was like, and it took our breath. And I was like, it is peaceful.
Wow.
And the nurse was standing there. She said, well, welcome. And a nurse is greeting me, and she says, y'all happen to be our only patients up here tonight.
Wow.
We said, what? She said, usually we're full, but tonight you're our only ones. And I was like, oh, that's crazy. And I said, it's peaceful up here. I looked at my husband. I said, do you feel that? He said, mm-hmm.
I have chills.
And it was peace. And it was like I had never felt peace.
Yeah.
And we go and put us in a room, and they hook her up, and she has got tubes everywhere, monitored where they put her kind of asleep. And they said, she's going to rest. And I said, okay, what are we watching? And they explained the monitor. And so I got talking to the nurses, because that's what I do.
Yeah.
I'm friendly. And I said, what are you? And they said, well, it just happens that this lady was a minister's daughter of a Presbyterian church. And she said, my coworker, she goes to the Church of God here in Lakeland. And she said, there's not very many times, but when we are down in time, we walk around and we pray over these rooms. And we pray. And I said, that's what it is. Your prayers, I can feel them. I said, definitely. She said, we have so much death in here and family torment. I said, well, you don't up here, because it was peace. And it was so great. And I didn't cry when this happened. I didn't worry, because I knew
God gave you the strength.
God gave you the strength. My sister made a comment in a book and says, all the chaos, everything that was going physically, you knew this wasn't good, this wasn't right, there was a problem.
Yeah.
But I never felt that. I felt, like she says, I knew everything was going to be okay.
Yeah. That was like, and then
I knew
we're going
everything
to talk
was
about
fine.
in a minute too, but this book, Just Beyond the Door.
Yes.
Just Beyond the Door. I was reading it online before you gave me the book, and I'm so excited. So before, I'm reading it on Google, because you can go read chapter 3, 1, 2, and 3, and you can't go anymore.
Can't go
It's
anymore.
like, suspense. But I wrote this
good.
down, and I have to have my glasses on. But I wrote this down because in chapter 3, Karen, your sister, says about what you just talked about. Instead of going straight into fear, you go to God's strength, which can only come from deep inside of you, having been built up through faith. I totally believe, and I wrote that down, because I'm like, I believe it, I felt it, I've experienced it.
Yes. That's why I had to have faith. That's why that week I listened to worship music. I listened to the
He was
word, even
preparing
though it was in my spirit.
Yeah.
It wasn't per se I couldn't quote it.
Right.
I could. Well, I
Right.
did, because when that crisis happened, I immediately began.
Yeah.
But it was prepping me. That's why it's so important
Get in the Word.
to what fills you.
Yep.
It is so important of what you surround your home and your
Yeah.
atmosphere.
Yep.
What you listen to.
Yep.
What you put in your spirit.
Yep.
Because you may not need it this week. You may not need it. But there's going to be a time, and it's going to rise up when you need it.
Absolutely.
So that was what had happened, and I was okay. My husband did, he cried. Family members cried. We all were panicking, but I didn't cry because I just knew it was okay.
Yeah.
And I was probably in mama mode too.
Yeah.
Oh, nope.
Yeah.
We got to do this. I was focused on this, and this.
Mm-hmm.
So we got up there and all night, and so about 3 a.m. I began to worry about our mind.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, oh God, she's
Mm-hmm.
not going to be right. I still didn't know that she'd been underwater as long as she had. I
Yeah,
just
you
knew.
didn't know that. What'd you say?
I didn't know until 2
years
years later.
Wow.
I thought 60, 90 seconds.
Yeah.
That's all. All I knew is she was purple and lifeless when we pulled her up, and she was missing an earring. And people were like, "What?" I'm like, "She must have found that earring at the bottom of the pool when we went back home." But I didn't. So at 3 o'clock that morning, I was in the bed with her, and I got up, and she was still sound asleep. My husband, he was in a recliner in the room, and I said, "I'm going to go out for a minute." And I went into the family room of the hospital, of ICU, and when I walked out of that room, I collapsed.
Yeah.
I just wept.
Yep.
And all the fear, all the anxiousness, because you are human.
You're human. Yep.
And
And
regardless.
Satan keeps looking
yes.
for those weaknesses.
And yes, I was filled of the Spirit, and yes, I prayed, and I spoke in my prayer language, and I knew, and I was praying, but I was still human.
Yep.
And He gives us that.
Yeah.
And I just began to break down, and I must have been moaning,
Yeah.
because I remember physically just feeling exhausted over crying, and all of a sudden, arms just came around me,
Yeah.
and I was just like, and I quit, and I began to hear prayer, and it was that nurse. She came in and she began to just pray over me.
Do you remember her name?
And thinking, no, I wish I knew the girls.
We'll have to come up with a day, because
I
I know a
wish
lady
I
named
knew.
Stephanie that works there.
I would love to go back and show them.
Yeah.
So she just began to pray over me, and she said, she's okay. And I'm like, is she really? She said, yes, her levels are coming up. She really is doing okay. She said, this is the number we want to watch. I want to make sure. I said, okay. And after that, I was okay. It was like I had to purge almost that out of me to be okay and get my strength back. And God does that. He said, there's a time for mourning. There's a time for weeping. There's a time for joy. There's a time for... And I knew, and so I was okay, and that was my time.
Yeah.
And after that, it was good.
Yeah.
So we go back at about 6 in the morning. Hailey wakes up, and she looks down. She's got everything, wires everywhere. And she says, Mama, I got boo-boos. And I said, oh, baby, yes, but Jesus touched you. And she said, Jesus held me, Mama. And I said, yeah, okay.
So now this
And I
is
was
where
just
we're
like,
getting to
sure.
the part where the experience happens
Yes.
here.
So I'm like, sure, that's it. So the doctors come in and they go, we can't believe this. She's fine. Everything's fine. Y'all can go home. So I think we went in the hospital around 4 o'clock Saturday. Sunday afternoon, by noon, we were out.
Wow.
We weren't in there 24 hours.
Wow.
And what thought this will not be good
Yep.
of a
She will
summer
live and not
Florida
die.
drowning, because in Florida,
Yeah.
in the summer, it's nice, and then it always has an afternoon shower
Yep.
around 3.
Yep.
And then, so right before we left the hospital, we were waiting for the discharge papers and everything. The nurse came in and said, hey, said our name, and I said, yes. And she said, you have a phone call. And I was like, I have a phone call? She said, at our desk. And I was like, we're from out of town. Who would call the hospital? She said, it's the paramedic. I said, the guys that brought us in? She said, yeah. She said, they don't ever call.
Wow.
And I
You made
said,
an
that's
impression.
strange. So I answered the phone, and I said, hello, and he said, all he goes is, she's okay, isn't she? And I went, yes, she is. And I began to laugh, and I said, she is. And he said, I told you she'd be okay.
Oh.
And he said,
Is he
and
a
I
little
said, yeah.
paramedic angel?
And he goes, you're not going to pray curses on me, are you? I said, no. No curses. And we laughed, and I said, I will pray blessings on you. Yeah. And he said, thank you. He said, I just wanted to check.
Oh,
he said, I knew
that's
she'd be okay.
Sweet.
So it meant a lot to me that God went before us.
Mm-hmm.
He knew what was going to happen before I did.
Absolutely.
That's why that week of prepping.
Yep.
That's why the paramedic.
Yeah.
The nurses.
Yeah.
The
Even
doctors
nurses
that they
weren't
changed.
supposed to come in. Mm-hmm.
The doctor that changed, that didn't, you know.
Yep.
And they told us when we left, you have something special, because you know in the hospital world they don't say miracles.
Yeah. Yeah.
Although we know it's a miracle.
Yeah.
They said you are blessed, and we said yes.
Aww.
So we go home, and Hailey goes, we got to swim before 3, and we're all like,
she's oblivious to the whole thing.
Oblivious.
Do you not remember being at the bottom of the pool?
She's like, let's go swimming. What's the problem? So we're like, yeah. So we all get back in the pool that day, but we were all, I have Hailey. I have Hailey. So, and on a side note, Hailey knows how to swim. Yes. She learned a year to the day of when she drowned. Her Mimi got to teach her how to swim in that same pool. Mm-hmm. And she does not have a fear of water. And because I refused. Mm-hmm. The enemy was not going to get any glory.
Absolutely. Nope.
Anything out of this. Because she has no fear. And we weren't going to walk in that fear.
Nope.
So we made sure.
Yeah.
So we're here. We go to a conference that's the next week. And then we go home. So it had been exactly a week when we got home. Okay. And Sunday was church. So we go to church.
And she's still 2 years old.
She's still 2. Hadn't turned 3 yet.
Almost 3.
Almost 3. So we go to church. We come home for Sunday dinner. Made Sunday dinner. We're sitting in our dining room, and our dining room had a chandelier.
Because they all did.
Because they all did. Everybody's.
Except at my house, I have no dining room. Go to the porch.
At least that's how I felt. You had to have one.
Yeah.
Because that's how I grew up.
Yeah.
So we're sitting there, and my son had his Sunday school paper, and he's coloring. And he goes, Hailey, what color was Jesus' hair? She said, it was brown. And I went, Hailey, what color is Jesus' skin? It's brown. I was like, well, of course. I'm 30-some years old. He's Middle Easterner. He would be brown.
Yeah.
So her daddy said, Hailey, what color was his eyes? And she said, oh, Daddy, his eyes. His eyes. And we were like, and she was getting agitated. And I said, Hailey, she goes, him's eyes, the light. That's him's eyes. And I went, what? She said, the light, that's his eyes. Can I get down now?
Oh.
And we said.
So for her brother to have asked her that question, they had been in the sibling mode and they've talked at
some point. They've been together
all week. Have you ever
week.
Asked him what all?
He doesn't remember a lot. He was 4 at the time. He vaguely remembers a lot of it. I think probably some of it was a lot of trauma. Yeah. Because poor little guy, I totally forgot. I didn't even think where he was when this was happening. I knew he was fine, but friends of ours had him. But I didn't even think, I was like, oh. Yeah. He was taken care of. God took him. But they had talked because he had asked her, because he had heard us talk about, she says Jesus held her and we just pushed it off until then. So she equivalented, is that the right, even a word? I have no idea. Sounds good.
She said that Jesus' eyes were like the chandelier, like the prisms like or the something.
Just the light. How bright. So I called my brother-in-law, which this is where this book comes from, because a year prior, and it'll explain everything in the book, but a year prior, he had 2 brain surgeries within 10 days.
Yes, when I read, I think chapter 1 or 2 about when he sneezed.
Sneezed.
Oh my word! I told Tim this morning before he went.
The enemy has tried to take him out on more occasions than one. Wow! And so he had brain surgeries.
And
so
you
he
designed
went
the
to
front
heaven.
cover of this book.
My husband did.
I read that.
I was very proud.
Front part too.
My husband did it.
I love it.
Very proud of him. And so I called Tommy immediately because I knew his experience. Yeah. And I said, that was in 2007, and I said, Tommy, I said, Hailey, we were talking, and Hailey said his eyes are the light. Is that right? And he goes, yeah, that would be the best way a 2-year-old could explain it. He said, because his eyes are opaque. He said, when I mean opaque, it's like you look in, he said, and as far as you can see, he said, you can see your life. Wow. You can see everything. He said, they never end. Wow. And he said, it's peaceful. He said, but they just go on and on.
So
He said,
your
"There's
daughter,
colors.
your
that you
daughter
can't-"
sat on Jesus' lap,
Mhm.
looked into his
He
eyes.
held her. He held her and looked at him.
Oh, isn't that what we
Because-
all want to do? Is just sit there and look into his eyes.
Well, it's like there's a song, Carrie Job, I can't remember the name, but
I
he
love
said,
Carrie
just
Job.
fall back on your
Yeah.
daddy and just rest.
Yep.
Just to rest in him. And so many times we forget to do that until we're at our max.
Absolutely.
And then we go, I can't do it
I know.
anymore. So with Hailey, he said there's colors you can't even explain. We have no colors to explain what those colors are up there.
Wow.
And so I was like, wow, she really saw Jesus.
Yeah.
And so in the Bible, and I believe it's in Revelations, it says a day is 1,000 and 1,000 is a day.
Mm-hmm.
So if medically she was unconscious for 5 to 7 minutes,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a mathematician by no means.
And I'm retired.
1,000 days is a day, and a day is 1,000. So if you break up 5 to 7 minutes, hours to days,
Mm-hmm.
I think Hailey must have been in heaven for about 10 years,
Wow.
10 to 12 years.
And how old is she now?
She's 13 now.
Wow.
And so she doesn't remember as much now,
Yeah.
but when she was littler, and I would write things that she would say that I thought, and I didn't think how many years she was there until just a couple of years back. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
wait a minute. So she would say, we'd be driving around.
Yeah.
She's still 2,
Mm-hmm.
and she's in her car seat, and we're driving, and she'd see something on the road or people, there was a fight going on or something on the street, and she said, oh, Mama, if the people only knew how sad that made Jesus. He doesn't want them to argue. He would want them to just love one another and forget all the hurt that they've caused. And I'm like, what?
Can she go to Washington, D.C. now?
Help him out. I'm like, you're 2.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, you don't have all the words. She was saying words she had never said before.
Yeah.
She was saying phrases that we had not really said. There was different occasions that she would say stuff that I'm like,
You said something about, she mentioned a joyful.
yeah, she said, if we would just have the joyful spirit in us that he's created in us.
And what 2-year-old talks like that?
Not mine.
No.
I mean, you don't have that. And I was like, what all did she see?
Mm-hmm.
And at the time I was just amazed of things she would say. She became 3, she would say stuff. And then it wasn't long after that we moved back down here.
Mm-hmm.
And she would say,
I'm glad you did.
Me too. Thank you. She would say just things about, Mom, those people don't know Jesus. We need to go talk to them. How do you know this?
So she got a boldness about her too.
Yes. And she's not fearful of
Mhm.
nothing. She's like, no, let's go. And so it was just an experience that it amazes me that I know, if I didn't know, I knew before, but if I didn't know before, heaven is real.
So what do you say to those people that are like,
That's going to keep going on.
you know what, let me get that for a minute while you talk and answer this
Okay.
question. Okay, so what do you say to those people that, no, I don't believe any of this stuff.
Oh,
People don't go die and come back.
yeah.
Let me turn
They
this alarm
do.
off.
Yes. Thank you. They do. That is almost a lack of faith, that you're fearful that you don't want to believe that, because it is real. And until it happens to you or someone close, that's your choice to not believe. But I believe that it is, because there becomes a boldness of when that heaven is for real.
Yeah.
And people do die and come back, because, and I think it's God's gift
Yeah.
to say, okay, because we're so tangible people that we have to see things,
Yeah.
that he goes, all right, and especially in our day and time, we want to know anything, we
Yeah.
Google it,
Right.
we see it.
Absolutely. Yeah. I know.
We don't, so the unknown is unknown.
Yeah.
May it be spooky, may it be fearful, may it be, it's real, you're excited. He gives us that, I believe, people to do that, to be for real, to say, look, this person's real.
Because like you mentioned
And
earlier, all of those things you were reminding God of, a God of miracles. What happened back then, what happened in
Yes.
the New Testament still happens
It
today.
still happens today.
We just
It
don't
is
have our
still
God
relevant.
goggles on
Yes.
and the faith.
Right.
sometimes to believe it.
And that's exactly it. God says, I've showed you this the years,
Mm-hmm.
and I continue to show you this
Yep.
through the years.
Learn from
But
me.
we choose to rather think we're smarter than that,
Mm-hmm.
or we have more knowledge than that,
Mhm.
or it's for that day and time back
Right.
then. It's not for today,
Right.
and it is for today.
It is.
Because
He's
it
real.
is, and it's a choice to. Do you choose? I mean, it's like the same thing of saying you're going to get in your car and start it because you believe it's going to start.
Yeah.
It's the same difference.
Mhm. Mhm.
It's that person did, and they have come back and they've told us things that
Mhm.
are for real. I mean, who are we to say we haven't done it?
I know. So what do you, okay, so your daughter now is 13 years old, you said,
Mhm.
right? So over these years, because we do live in a crazy society, and we got good kids, we got
Yes.
good people, we got crazy people.
Mhm.
Now, how would you describe your daughter,
Mm.
watching her grow through this experience?
Well, she has a love for people. Like, that she's very forgiving.
Mm-hmm.
She's one that things have hurt. I mean, face it, she's went through middle school.
It's middle school.
Middle school.
Yeah, yeah.
We-
My daughter hated middle school.
Like
Yeah.
the movie Hope Floats, we spent our
Oh,
whole life getting
yes.
over our middle school, our school years, our childhood. Hailey, things, typical girl, typical life. She's never held a grudge. I've not seen her hold grudges. She loves them like nothing. Where Mama Bear here goes,
Yeah.
that person did this.
She's forgetting.
And she's like, Mom, it's okay. They've
Yeah.
changed. She's very forgiving. She is very loving.
Mm-hmm.
She's very open to the Spirit.
Mm-hmm.
Very respectful to the Spirit. She knows it's real.
Mm-hmm.
She hates to see when people don't believe in God. She wants everyone to believe. So she has a faith that she makes me in check a lot of times. So, Mom, that's not how I'm like, yeah.
Jesus
we'll
said
say
so
stuff,
because I saw him.
Because the older she got, she didn't remember because it did happen when
Right.
she was 2. And we've asked her, hey, do you remember? And she said, not really.
Yeah.
She don't remember anything. I'm like, do you remember? She goes, no. But I think what it is it's in your spirit.
Yeah.
It's just like when you go to a job, you work. Every day you do these same things. It's in you.
Mm-hmm.
You know how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like that in her. She went through that.
Mm-hmm.
God instilled those things in her that it's natural. It's the norm. That it's normal for her to be loving to everyone, to show them kindness, to give her a boldness
Yeah.
of courage, she's not worried about. She'll go out there and tell
Yeah.
that's wrong, or we need to love each other. Or
Yeah.
she has a special anointing on her.
Now, so you've just seen this sweet spirit about your child. How did that experience change you?
Oh my! A new level of faith. I had faith. I grew up in a Christian home. And I've seen people healed. I've seen things. And I knew God was real. But to firsthand, to see God's realness, that was a new level.
Yeah.
I realized, God can do that. We say that so many times. Oh, yeah, God can do that for you. But do we really mean it? Or is it just something we say? Because it says it in the Bible.
Yeah.
It says it for other people. I experienced it. Oh, yeah, it can happen. So it's changed me of, yeah, God's going to do that, not can. He's going to do that for us. And it put a softness in my heart for parents that have gone through that. I was fortunate. I didn't lose my child, but for a moment, I had lost my child for a moment. And I experienced of what a parent, I don't claim to know what a parent goes through for losing a child, but for a moment, I know what it felt of that loss.
And you know, in those moments, what you clung to.
Yes, I know what you had to.
Yeah.
I've wondered, and I had wondered, God, if a crisis happened, would I really know what to do? Would I really fall onto you? And I did, because that was in me.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so important to keep that in us. Not just
Absolutely.
it may not happen for years down the road.
Yep.
It may not, you may, praise the Lord, never have to see
I know.
a problem. But it changed me to a softness of understanding people.
Yeah.
I have a newness of looking at people when they've lost. When I hear about drownings, my heart aches. I cry. I cry for them because of what pain they must go through, of what people that don't know the Lord, what the loss must be. Because, I mean, yes, we even know the Lord, the loss that we feel, but there's a hopeness in us. And it's forever changed me of my faith.
Yeah.
I have faith like I've never had before. Definitely.
That's awesome. And so we have some things in common here.
Yes.
Okay, so we have Just Beyond the Door by Tommy and Karen Drum. And Karen is your sister. Let me get this up close.
She is my sis.
Hi, Karen.
Hey.
So,
I'm honored. Thank you for doing this. First of all, I'm honored that you asked me, but we're honored.
Let me
that you
tell
get
you,
to show this.
how many chapters are in
it's
this?
It's an easy read. There's like
24 chapters.
Yeah.
And
but
I
it's an
read
easy
3 of them just like that today. And I wanted to
Yes.
read more, but Google said, you got to
You gotta
get
get
it.
the book.
You got to get the book. So here's this book.
Yes.
And I just found it by Googling. That's all it was.
There you go.
And so
I believe it's on
or-
Amazon. You can and just Google it. Yes, but I believe it is on Amazon. You can purchase it on there.
Very good. So Tommy and Karen Drum.
Yep.
And then my brother Mike, My Emmaus, God is Faithful 24/7. And he has
can't wait to read
stories. I know, I can't wait for you to read it. I can't wait to hear your take on it.
No.
Because knowing your background, you really gonna like this. And but in his book, there's like 14 chapters, and they're just each little short stories about real things that's happened to him in his life.
Awesome.
But the good thing that of people that have stuck with us, what is this, 40 minutes, 41
Oh my
minutes?
goodness, it's a bit that long.
I know, I think, am I reading it right? I don't know.
Sorry,
I
I
can't
believe it was good.
But I'm gonna give these 2 books away.
Yay! Yes.
So whoever just makes a comment,
Okay.
any comment like, hey, how you doing?
Something.
Love the story.
Yay.
Go Hailey. Can't read the book. I mean, whatever.
Right.
If any comment, then
Good.
I'll put their names in a drawing.
Good.
And
Awesome.
then we'll have a drawing that they
Very
can win a
good.
book.
Good.
So,
And anybody else that doesn't win, if they do want one, they're more than welcome to contact me. I do have some.
and how do we contact you, Miss Julie?
Well, you can find me on her Facebook page,
Yeah.
Julie Pippin.
Yeah.
Yeah, just message me and or contact Stephanie and she'll get with you
Okay.
and let you know. But
I
yes.
will. But I thank
you so much.
so much for doing
Oh,
this.
thank you. I'm honored that I got to share this story.
I love how God puts people in our lives, whether it's
Yes.
for a season or
Right.
whether it's for a lifetime.
Yes.
But the one thing we do have in common is our sisterhood in Christ.
Yes, ma'am.
And I'm so grateful that I get to just sit on my back porch and eat muffins
And it's
fruit.
wonderful here. I love it.
Oh, thank you.
Such wonderful.
And just talk about
Thank you.
Jesus.
Yes.
Because I love talking about Jesus.
Me too. He's my life.
Yeah.
Really is. And if you don't have him, you need him. And
Yeah.
it's so easy to have him. And start today if you've
Yeah.
not read your Bible or you don't think, listen to it.
Absolutely.
If you don't have time, you're a busy mama, I get it. But listen to
Yeah.
it.
And that's like I'll even have nowadays. Most of the cars have the
Yep.
you plug in the,
The aux
phone.
cord. Yep.
So I'll listen to my brother Mike's sermons,
There
or I'll
you go.
listen to some
Listen.
sermons.
Feel your
Just
spirit.
Yeah, just
Yeah,
let it.
it's
Even just
important.
Christian music.
Mhm.
You know, just let the
Right.
Holy Spirit to speak to you.
So,
So
thank
I love
so
you.
much. I love you. Thank you.
Thank you so
You're so
much,
awesome. Thank you.
and make sure that y'all take a look
Yes.
at these books
Yay.
right here. Bye.